Hey, my friend, Kirby here of KirbyAndersen.com. Hey, do you have a love-hate relationship with your phone? If so, I totally get it. I understand. I love being available 24/7 to my kids and all of those who are closest to me. But that same instant access also now provides an opportunity for basically anybody and everybody just to pop into my world whenever they want and to demand a response. And you've probably noticed over the last few years that the line that used to exist between personal time and work time, it has really gotten blurry, if not completely non-existent. And so that's why I want to talk with you today about how you can keep yourself available, just not 24/7. How you can learn to limit the distraction and the demands of these notifications that are such a part of our everyday life. Now, when I was a kid growing up, and it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago, but it's big change from what many would know of today. In our home, we just had a single landline telephone. Man, that was our link to the outside world. We lived out in the country, and it didn't ring all that often. But I can't ever remember that thing ringing all that much after 7 o'clock at night. And I very seldom remember my dad ever getting business calls on it once he came home at the end of the day, only if it was a bona fide emergency. Now, I can tell you that whenever that phone would ring, we would all run to it. We were excited to find out who was calling us on the telephone, but that was the only device that was ringing in our lives. That is absolutely nothing compared to all of the nonstop notifications that we are getting today from our email and text and social media and weather alerts and traffic alerts and calendar reminders, not to mention just our phone calls as well. Our days are filled with all of these noises. And unless you are actually working in an emergency management service situation, you don't have to feel obligated to be available to everybody 24/7. It's okay. You're not this horrible person for you choosing who's going to get your attention and when. And if you need some help on this, beyond just a little bit of permission, what I've just given you, let me give you a few other ways that you can begin to take control of some of this noise of these notifications that happen through our phone and our computers every single day. First of all, it's important for you to remember that you don't have to answer everything immediately. And I understand that. There is something about when that noise goes off that it is commanding our attention. But just because it rings, beeps, buzzes, honks, barks, gongs, it doesn't mean that you have to respond immediately. All it means is that these things are telling you that something is urgent, but urgent doesn't necessarily mean important. You're the only one who can determine what's important, and you're the one who has to determine how you're going to respond and when you're going to respond. So make sure that you understand that just because something goes off and tells you that it's urgent doesn't mean that you have to respond accordingly. Number two, learn to cut the noise of these notifications. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this. Just don't put up with them and try to ignore them. You need to take control of this. And let me just suggest to you a couple of ways to do that. First of all, you just learn to curb these things to begin with. Go to your smartphone sometime here real soon, look under the settings for notifications or on your computer, and make a decision of what you really need to be notified about. Man, if you're like me, I've established so many notifications and they all seem to be worthwhile at the time that I did it. But if you don't go through and purge these things, the cumulative effect of all of this just becomes mind-numbing after a while. Do you really need to be notified of every comment that comes to one of your Facebook posts? Do you really need to be notified of every time a brand new email hits your inbox? If you even have to stop and think about it, let me just tell you the answer. It's no. You don't. So we've got to take charge of this, first of all, and just go through every so often and purge these things and begin to curb them. Next of all, you need to kill them once in a while. I mean, it may just be temporarily, but it's an important thing to do whenever you're talking to somebody, you're in an important meeting, or maybe you're just working on a project that demands concentration. Kill these notifications temporarily. I mean, if I'm on a video chat with a coaching client, or even more important, I'm having some FaceTime with one of my grandkids that lives out of state, they deserve my best attention. I don't need to be bugged by all of these stupid notifications that's going on in the upper right-hand corner of my desktop screen at that time. And you say, well, I don't even know how to do that. Well, you need to figure it out on your particular device. I use a MacBook when I'm on the computer on my laptop, and I know that if I just hold down the Option key and click on the notifications icon up in the menu bar in the upper right-hand corner of that screen, it's going to just completely suppress them for that period of time until I choose to turn them back on. So learn how to kill those things whenever you need to give your full attention to someone or to some particular project. And then the other great option that's at least on my iPhone, I don't know about on Android phones, but I'm sure there's a counterpart. We have on the iPhone a Do Not Disturb setting. And I love this because when you enable it, all the rings, all of the alerts, they also are suppressed. And the cool thing is that you can choose to let certain calls come through from certain people if you really want. But man, this thing is absolutely essential, especially when you're sleeping at night. I put this thing on in the evening. I turn it on when I go into a meeting. And especially if you're going on a date with your husband, with your wife, significant other, give them your best, turn the thing off, go on Do Not Disturb. These are all great options for learning how to take control of these notifications. And then finally, learn how to schedule time for replies. Because you know, the immediate reaction is that whenever you get an alert, you think that you have to respond right away. Now listen, I love people. I love to be connected with people. But I don't want to be controlled by rings and alerts, and I don't want to be pulled from pillar to post by the demands of other people or other circumstances that are going on. I'm going to determine that, and you need to determine the same thing. Find out the best time for you to return these phone calls, the emails, to get back with people who have left you a voicemail. You know, one of the ways you can do this is just kind of help to educate those that you communicate with and let them know when to expect a reply to your email or to your voicemail. You can simply put that on your email signature of the times that you tend to respond or within a period of time you'll get back to them. I loved some folks who on their voicemail greeting will just simply say, hey, I return my calls twice a day. Whatever it is, let folks know. I'll let you in on one of my favorite little time waster techniques here for those people who tend to be really long-winded. And God bless them, they're important to me. Most of them, I'm assuming. But if they call and they have a tendency to take the shortest little conversation and drag it out, it's for that reason that I return most of my phone calls like right before lunch at 11:30 each day and then 4:30 at night before people go home. The reason is even the most long-winded person tends to really get to the point when they're about ready to go to lunch or go home for the day. So you can take that for what it's worth. But here's the main takeaway for today, is that you can have great relationships with the people that you choose, both personally and in business, and still be available without being a slave to your phone 24/7. And it may take a little bit of reconditioning on the inside of you, and it may take a little bit of education for those that you communicate with, but I want to tell you something, it's worth it. You are going to love the productivity, and even more, you're going to love the peace. So take a step with at least one of these suggestions today and get some more of that peace in your life. I hope that was helpful to you today. I sure enjoyed this. It helps me to remind myself again of these things. I need to go back and probably purge some of those notifications as well. If you'd like to stay up to date with future videos, just go and sign up to my email newsletter at KirbyAndersen.com. And if you will just take some steps today to curb any form of urgency in your life, I want to tell you something. It will help you to live better, to love more, and to leave the legacy that you desire. Hope you have a great week. Stay on target, my friends.